Hey, what's up? It's Jim, and today I'm going to talk about Avatar: The Way of Water. This is the big sequel to Avatar that I guess we've all been waiting for, or waiting to bomb, or whatever. James Cameron's kind of first film since then. And I think one thing James Cameron is probably known for is making good sequels when it's not Piranha 2. And this is one of them, and falls in line with being a really great sequel that adds on to the original, which is kind of a thing we all thought would happen and did, so that's cool. I think James Cameron in this shows one thing that the last sequel he made, which was Terminator 2, believe it or not, which was 30 years ago? Oh, fuck. Shows, I think, one thing he's really interesting at is the flow of his films. Sometimes when he makes a sequel are his own thing, exciting bit in the front, a long second part, basically a long, like, huge middle story building. I mean, the 3X structure is largely just to identify parts. It's not a real thing. But and then the end kind of battle sequence, which I guess could be considered, if there are three acts, the third act, just this insane, intense, goes on forever, like literally in the story, from daytime to nighttime to daytime again, kind of action sequence that goes on to so many layers and different people and things, and not in the way we are used to anymore. The kind of complex storytelling that I would say complex in terms of the way of, like, he layers things out and lets them lie there and brings them back, and like doesn't use this but maybe he'll use that, and like he's a filmmaker who, and through the ethos of what we've all talked about with him for so long, does play by his own rules, but kind of like understands that there are still actual rules to what he's doing. I think I like this a lot more than the first one, which I did rewatch before I saw this one. And I remember when I first saw the first one, I felt that was a kind of return to form for him. He was making sort of what we expected from a James Cameron film. Particularly, I thought the first one was trying to call back to Aliens. I think this one does too. It feels like he really liked Aliens from this. But even this, he has, like, the character of Spider is very much Newt from Alien. Things sort of like that this is more of a military thing. It's like recontextualizing more of this in a military thing. Although I do think it has a lot of original ideas as well. It also, like, thinks about, like, the next generation, what that would be like. I think kind of comes together more when he's in the world rather than when he's initially starting it off. More so than this, and like I like Terminator 2 for different reasons, but like this feels like he's more into the world and it's more interesting, and you more understand the love of Pandora because of the technology. I think he's very good with the high frame rate in this. I accidentally saw it in high frame rate 3D, and I actually really liked it. I'm not a high frame rate person, but he is able to, through the water stuff, when you're going into the waters of Pandora, that feels far more imaginative than the jungles of Pandora ever would, or the wilderness of Pandora. It feels like there's a real love there, but it's also like water is mysterious. Like, it does have this allure to us still. Like, I think a lot of people don't think about, like, how amazing water and the bodies of water really are. Like, there's all these creatures we don't understand. It's something we can't really live on. We have to take boats. We have to hold our breath, all those things, but it really has a real majesty to it to understand before you understand, like, these people destroying it, and you have to understand that majesty. You can't just do it in a few shots, and he makes you understand why you can't do it in a few shots. There's also a certain strangeness to this, and a growing up of the characters and advancing the characters in a very natural way. He is very smart and good at that, and I think this shows off the pros of him as a filmmaker, I would definitely say. I don't think he understands, like, he seems to be like not pro technology, but then all his filmmaking is pro technology, and everything about the bad guys is pro technology. So, like, I'm very confused how he actually feels about any of this, because, like, it feels like he isn't into that stuff. Then, like, but you definitely, like, are, because this movie and everything you're doing with it feels like I've never seen someone embrace technology and also be completely afraid of the ramifications of actually using it as much as James Cameron. This takes place a long time after the original Avatar, about, like, as much time as it's been since the last Avatar, so it's probably worked out timing wise. But Jake Sully and Neytiri have, like, I guess they have kids. I don't know if they're married, but they have a bunch of kids now. They also have adopted Sigourney Weaver's Avatar is pregnant mysteriously and gives birth to a kid Sigourney Weaver, played by Sigourney Weaver, which is, I gotta say, better motion capture than anything in The Irishman. I never doubted that that was a kid the entire time. So Sigourney Weaver, I actually think does a great performance because it's not showy or anything. You just don't think about how it's just like, you don't think of her as an older woman. You think of her as like a 14-year-old, even physically. So however they like got that performance to work, like both with her voice and the animation, amazing job. Because anytime she'd speak, I'd be like, oh, I recognize that voice, but it's like I never like doubted it. It's very strange, but like amazing at the same time. But they have like various kids, and they have Spider, who was the son of Stephen Lang from the first film, who couldn't go into cryosleep and be sent back to Earth because he was a baby. No mention of like what the deal is with his mom. Like his mom just like, well, sorry, I gotta leave Pandora and you gotta stay here. Sucks to be you, kid. Like, or did they force the mom to like? They don't really get into that, which is weird. Like I was like, what's going on there? Like what? They have all these things, and then Stephen Lang is back in an avatar body because they uploaded his consciousness before. Apparently, they mentioned in the first film. Apparently, they do. And Earth is trying to actually just take over Pandora and burn down an entire forest to sort of terraform and start colonizing Pandora because Earth is kind of fucked. Although they never show it to you, but I guess it's kind of bad, apparently. And they're very much after Jake Sully and his family because they actually keep destroying stuff from the humans. So they're after them. So Jake Sully and his family leave where they've been hiding with the tribe and stuff. And then they go to this water tribe and live there. And they kind of learn the ways of the water tribe. One of them falls in love with one of the girls there. One of them, I think it's the same one actually or something, becomes friends with a Pandora space whale. Although it's not a space whale, it's a water whale, but it's an alien whale, basically. I don't know. But friends with the whale, all this stuff. Jermaine Clement's in this and not being funny, so that's strange. And, you know, basically they're hiding out and hoping Stephen Lang doesn't find him as he is and his crew or in avatar bodies. And then Spider, who's his son, they kidnap because and he's trying to sort of raise and kind of trying to betray Jake Sully and his family. What is interesting is Jake Sully, I think, takes a back seat. It's more about the kids. And although oftentimes it's like, it feels like, uh-oh, the Sully clan's in trouble again because they're like somewhere they shouldn't be and stuff like that. It's like a little too boxcar children for me sometimes. Ultimately, like their troubles, and it's like pretty remedial, like what trouble do teenagers get in? Oh no, a bully. It still really works. I think the thing about Cameron is he's very broad and doesn't really care that he is broad. He's like, well, this just works this way. What's the problem? And very much like plays it like he understands that works and understands the ramifications of that. But also at the same time, like there are shots where like Sigourney Weaver's character in this is like falling in love with the water. And I'm like, yeah, I want to see that. This is amazing. Like I heard a lot of people say the Wonders of Pandora thing is the worst part. I actually didn't. It kind of actually reminded me of Iso Takahata in terms of his like, let's just hang out with the water tribe. I'm like, yeah, let's actually do that. I'm totally cool with watching this. And like, I didn't get to see, I wanted to see it in an amazing IMAX. I didn't. I saw it just 3D HFR, but it was like really, really amazing. I was in love with it. I really liked it a lot. That was a really beautiful animated film, I thought. Yeah, I mean, it is an animated film for the most part. Also seeing Kate Winslet as one of the avatars is amazing. Jake Sully, I think Sam Worthington is fine in this. He's a little better. He takes a backseat. Zoe Saldana's barely in this, which I think kind of sucks. I wanted more Zoe Saldana. I don't understand. I was here that she had to give up all this stuff to be in like all these constant blockbusters, and it's like, well, I want to see. I actually like her. I mean, she has a cool role in it. But I think the centerpiece, the end action sequence, very much remind me of Terminator 2. And the structure of this does, because when you think of Terminator 2, you think of awesome action, all these explosions, all these cool special effects. And it's like a lot in the beginning, and then they're just hanging out, hiding away from T-1000. And then it's like when they're destroying like the facility, and then the T-1000 is chasing them, and then it goes on, and there are also locations. And then if this felt like that, there's even a boat that turns over. Like Cameron was like, I don't give a shit. I'm just like going back on previous things. Like really, like that is very obvious what he's doing there. And it's like, he clearly doesn't care anymore. He's just like, which James Cameron's always been like that. But it was like, when he did that, I was like, oh man, you're just doing Titanic. Okay. It was like, he just goes back on stuff because it's thrilling and exciting. It feels like, I guess like how Spielberg sort of directed Jurassic Park, where there's obvious shots in there that make like no fucking sense, and like even the logic of the movie, if you watch it and like really nitpick it. But like you don't do that because you're so in it and it's so much fun and so thrilling and so compelling. As a viewer, you don't care. You don't care. In fact, I'd seen Jurassic Park a ton of times, and then someone pointed out, like, yeah, when they fall over that cliff in the previous scenes, there's no cliff there. That they made that up because it would be thrilling. And it's like, and you go with it, you know what I mean? And in this film, they do that a lot, where it's like, oh, the kids are kidnapped again. I don't know, because that would be exciting, because we're doing that again. And like Spider will do this because of the, Spider. Look, white guys with dreads are never cool, and Spider, I don't know. Spider is like the most annoying, important character I have seen in a long time. Like, he really should be someone in a Friday the 13th movie that I would definitely want to get stabbed a lot of times. I just do not like this kid at all. I don't get it, but whatever, Cameron. But that third act was, and it's also like, I've not seen since maybe like when Marvel does it right, which doesn't always happen. But like when you have those cliffhangers where it's like super important to the plot and story, but on multiple levels. There's so much stuff for them to just hang out. You're like, this isn't important. Guess what, bitch? It's important all over this place in multiple levels. And like you it's basically like the script could not possibly not have this and action sequence. And it's not like a sequence now where like I feel like action sequences now, it's like the Mission Impossibles or your Fast and Furious, where it's like car chase on helicopter on motorcycle, boom, 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 and it's just like this immersion adrenaline run all throughout. Cameron's not really isn't into that. He's into grabbing you as an audience member, and so it's like, well, the whale's coming in here, and this is happening, and like they're fighting on the boat, and this kid's kidnapped, but this kid isn't. Now this kid is kidnapped, and that kid isn't. And there's fire on the boat, and they exploded this, and one of them did this, and the Tiri's doing this up here in the clouds, and there's this thing, and it's like, and like there's multiple planes of plot going on at once that will stop and come back and do this, and then we're gonna stop for a second, then we're coming back to it, and it's like it's so much different than like look at all this shit at once. It's more just like all the plot has to come in at this point to this many levels, and you were just so in as a viewer. It reminded me of watching those Cameron movies and being like, wow. This is an event. This is a huge spectacle. It made me really like him as a filmmaker when I was like, this guy, like, why is he making so many Avatar movies? I was kind of like, I don't know, if he makes them like this, like, I'm okay. I wish he would do something else, but I guess this is still really good. I think it's a huge improvement on the last film. I think it is a much better movie. And I think, like, the bland character of Jake Sully is very much improved upon as, like, a dad in this and having all these kids in this. Yeah, it's like basic filmmaking, but it's like really good at it. Like, I think like this is very similar to Top Gun Maverick in a lot of ways, where it's like an older guy who, is now like put in this new world and new context, and knowing like these younger people who he is also learning from, but they're also learning from him as they get in trouble, and he saves them, but they save him at the same time. It's kind of funny. I was thinking about it after leaving this, as much as people say this and Top Gun are like this, like not against like what's going on now, and like modern Hollywood would never do this, and they're too woke and all this stuff. When you actually look at them, it's like they're actually like very pro that stuff. They're just like, why don't we just actually all talk and help out each other? Which is kind of like the actual context of the movies is like actually against those things. It's like being anti that and like being anti the new things. Like, no, we want to learn from them, and I want to learn. They should learn something from me. And we should advance together. It's like Miles Teller and Tom Cruise won together. Jake Sully and his family and the kids who have new ways, who have whale friends, who have all sorts of weird shit, they were able to defeat this battle together. Like that is kind of the multi-generational thing. I think this is a lot actually about family and coming together and dealing with life and all that stuff. And Cameron, who has like a huge family and stuff, you can tell is like he really believes in that togetherness. And I think there's a beauty in that actually, and what he's trying to do. And he's trying to do it in a very James Cameron kind of fucking way. And it's like, it is a very James Cameron movie. It's like, the underwater is cool, you guys. Guess what? And I'm going to make it look any cooler, because if I just show you a whale, you're all going to be like, I don't know, whatever. Whales, space whales, holy shit. He makes the water special again in a way that I don't think I've seen it since, like, I have seen like some water thing in IMAX or something like that. He brings that in there. He brings in a very easy to understand film. I think the reason his films are like so obnoxiously popular to a degree that like no one understands it is because he gets like very basic storytelling. Like, storytelling doesn't have to be this complex, multiple complexity. He does like do it in a very like, I think having these multiple plot threads is like something I think a lot of screenwriters would have like multiple bulletin board, and it's complex in terms of like the structure of it all coming together, or it might feel that way, but it's so clear in its kind of like simplicity. I think he is someone who understands how to speak to an audience in a way, and I felt that so much in this. I don't know, I don't want to say it's the glory of Hollywood, because I think it's like Cameron's ego, most of it, running this thing, but he's just like, there's a reason he's a big popular filmmaker, and I don't think he ever wanted to do the Spielberg thing of like proving to everyone like, no, I am a good filmmaker. I think he's like fuck you, I'm a good filmmaker. I can do this end thing like this. And I think what works so much better about this and like the third act is the original has an epic battle at the end, but it just doesn't land as well. This is an epic third act for the ages, and it just encompasses sort of everything like that hangout and everything was sort of building to. It almost feels like the film is built for that kind of end battle sequence that goes on for like an hour. Like, wait, you don't realize how much you're in it until you're in it, and then like as it goes on, you're like, whoa, I am in this thing. I do think the thing with Cameron is like, is this saying anything? I don't know, but was Top Gun saying anything either? Like, did a lot of movies say anything? But I think this is primarily experience, and the almost, I would say, the thing with Cameron is he's telling a story to tell a story to compel you. Is he using those tools to say anything the way a Lucas or a Spielberg or the great people who made blockbusters, who are those names, have done? Not really. And if he is, other than like, hey, let's save the environment and shit, and it doesn't feel like much more going on. It feels very like broad even in that. It feels like experience for experience sake, but fuck, man, that is a hell of a fucking experience to go through. And I don't mind cinema being a thrill ride kind of roller coaster. If James Cameron can make it, it's an amazing roller coaster beyond. Maybe we should talk about the joy and the art of the roller coaster of cinema. And maybe that is the amazing cinematic moment that is Avatar: The Way of Water, and the direction of James Cameron. That is it's the experience for the sake of being the experience. So if you have seen Avatar: The Way of Water and you would like to talk about it, then comment below in the comments and subscribe if you would like to.